คุณภูเขาทะเลที่พาให้เราได้มาพบกันจนเราผูกพันกันมาแสนนานกี่พันปัญหาใดๆที่เราร่วมกันก้าวผ่านจนวันนี้ล้อมรวมเป็นหนึ่งเดียวพวกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจสื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดีพวกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจสื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดีพวกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจสื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดีจะทุ่มเทตลอดไปเพราะเมืองไทยคือหัวใจของเราขอบคุณภูเขาทะเลที่พาให้เราได้มาพบกันจนเราผูกพันกันมาแสนนานกี่พันปัญหาใดๆที่เราร่วมกันก้าวผ่านจนวันนี้ล้อมรวมเป็นหนึ่งเดียวพวกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจสื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้าน วกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจซื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดีกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจซื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดีจะทุ่มเทตลอดไปเพราะเมืองไทยคือหัวใจของเรา ขอบคุณภูเขาทะเลที่พาให้เราได้มาพบกันจนเราผูกพันกันมาแสนนานกี่พันปัญหาใดๆที่เราร่วมกันก้าวผ่านจนวันนี้ล้อมรวมเป็นหนึ่งเดียวพวกเราร่วมกันเป็นผู้เดินนำการท่องเที่ยวจนก้าวไกลมือทั้งสองคอยโอบประคองให้บ้านชื่อไทยสุขใจหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็มีความหมายทำให้พวกเรายังก้าวไปด้วยหัวใจซื่อตรงที่จะทำดีหนึ่งรอยยิ้มของใครก็ดูยิ่งใหญ่เตือนให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจว่าเพื่อใครที่ฉันต้องดูแลบ้านของเราให้ดี
I see new horizons are opening up new feelings I feel great in every moment when I see the world around me it makes me
Open to the new shades. Amazing Thailand.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Sawadee Krap. My name is Steve Johnson Stevenson, Marketing Manager with TAT in New York. On behalf of the entire TAT family, we'd like to thank you for joining this evening's webinar entitled Survive, Revive, Thrive, Luxury Travel in the Time of COVID-19. But before we begin, allow me to go through some technical notes. During the session, you can ask questions of the presenter using the Q&A icon. If you're joining via smartphone, that icon you can find at the top of your screen. If you're joining via your laptop or desktop, the icon is located on the upper left-hand corner of the screen. During the webinar, if you're experiencing any difficulties, please communicate with the events team via the chat box located on the bottom right of your screen. After the webinar, please leave us your feedback and suggestions by filling out the questionnaire. That icon is located next to the Q&A icon. Your feedback helps us to prepare for future events. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded. If you'd like to watch the webinar again, TAT will post a link on each topic after the session. The link will be available to you tomorrow within the past events section of the site. But now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our webinar and well-respected presenter. Research indicates that luxury travel will definitely drive the recovery post-COVID-19. There are, of course, many questions and concerns, and we'll do our best to address many of them this evening. The luxury market has and will continue to be an important travel segment for Thailand. Through a long-standing and fruitful relationship with Virtuoso, we have been able to build on Thailand's image as the top luxury destination in Southeast Asia. Through Virtuoso channels, we continue to educate and build lasting relationships with key travel advisors in both North and South America. For those of you who might not be familiar, Virtuoso is the leading global network of agencies. These agencies specialize in luxury and experiential travel. And today it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Albert Herrera. It is because of Albert's innate understanding of the luxury market that he has elevated to one of Virtuoso's most prominent positions, that of Senior Vice President of Global Partnerships. Albert joined the Virtuoso team in 2004. He served in leadership roles and now develops and directs key relationships with the network's extensive product portfolio and elite advisor membership. His governance, unrivaled passion for travel, and an extensive Rolodex of industry contacts makes Albert one of the most respected figures in travel. Good morning, Albert. So nice to have you. Welcome.
Good morning, Kun Steve. Sawadee Kap to all of you, and good morning from New York City. And to those of you in Thailand, good evening as well. I hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during these uncertain times. As Steve mentioned, I am the Senior Vice President of Global Partnerships at Virtuoso. And again, as he mentioned, that we are the leading luxury travel network, and we work with over 2,000 partners and 22,000 member advisors around the world. But more importantly, we've also partnered with TAT for the last 5 years, and it's been a great partnership. So when I was invited to present to you today, it's a pleasure to be here to share insights on the industry that we all love and probable scenarios to help weather this storm. So we've been speaking for many years about the ever-changing world that we live in. Most of the time, we mean change in a business sense, right? A new technology will emerge, new brands will form, new trends that will impact the traveler mindset. Sometimes that change is tragic, a natural disaster, an act of terrorism. And for those of us who've been in the business for a long time, it may feel like we've seen it all. Well, we've seen it all until 2020. The impact of COVID-19 on the world has been seismic. This is unprecedented, impacting everything that affects our daily lives. So today I'll speak to you about the current state of luxury travel, using information from trusted sources, including McKinsey and World Bank, and we can look at the role that luxury travel plays in the global economy and theories on what shape recovery will possibly be. There are no definitive theories. These are just probabilities. Insight into the traveler mindset, and also when they may be on the road again. What the new look of luxury may be as the traveler mindset shifts and becomes increasingly focused on health and safety. So I'd like to begin our discussion on luxury travel today by talking about Virtuoso's role. Our network is comprised of 2,000 of the world's best travel providers and properties, with an elite member group of 22,000 advisors around the globe. As we were coming into 2020, we were also celebrating our biggest and most profitable year. Our advisors conducted $30 billion in sales globally, which was up from the prior year of 14%. 2019 was the best year on record for us. I guess like a lot of you as well. But needless to say, that was all pre-COVID-19. And of course, the terminology we use now, we refer to it as PC or pre-COVID. So after years of growth, the travel world stopped dead in its tracks. It was jarring. In April, our product partners had negative production because their refunds and cancellations outweighed bookings. I wanted to share with you this slide on the screen here that actually shows actual numbers of Virtuoso production from advisors. Year-to-date production is down about 43% across all categories. No surprise that air travel has been hit the hardest. Hotels, cruise lines, our DMC friends are all in a similar position of great decline. Just the other day, CNBC reported that nearly half of leisure and hospitality jobs were lost in April alone, which equates to 8 million jobs, making our industry one of the hardest hit across all other industries. So Virtuoso is a microcosm of the luxury travel industry at large. What's happening here is happening across the world, and implications are huge. So the crisis has brought the importance of travel and tourism to the forefront. The global luxury travel ecosystem generates $1.5 million on average. It directly supports industries beyond travel, like hotels, cruise lines, transportation providers, food and beverage, entertainment, local businesses and economies, destination infrastructure, the list goes on. So the recovery of the travel industry is vital to maintaining the world economy. Leading consulting firm McKinsey has proposed several models speculating on what a recovery will look like. These models range from a recovery in time for the summer season to a full-blown recession, which they call a black swan. The good news is that, well, if there is good news, is that they expect one or more of optimistic scenarios to play out, with natural economies coming back online by the end of the year. The blue boxes highlighted here detail those scenarios. The truth is that no one, even leading economists, medical experts, or government officials can say for sure at this time. So there are two-pronged considerations for you to factor in, as this is both a public health emergency and the threat of a financial crisis that is looming ahead of us. So with that said, it is not a matter of if they will return, if travel will return, but when it will return. We do not have a crystal ball, but we can all look at lessons from the past. We also have information on the thoughts and motivations of today's global luxury traveler. Together, these may provide some insight on what to expect. The WTO is forecasting a decline in international arrivals between 20% and 30% in 2020 compared to last year. We believe that this is actually rather optimistic, because we do not know yet when the shelter-in-place, social distancing, and border closure policies will end. I mean, just over the weekend, the UK announced that everyone who's non-UK citizen will be quarantined automatically. And the list goes on, right? So those parameters keep changing. However, one thing we all know well is that the human appetite for travel is strong. We are confident that travel will recover in the long run. And as you can see on this chart, past crises have been impactful, but did not stop the upward trajectory of international travel. Again, it did not stop the trajectory of international travel. So what will it take to get people traveling again? The luxury travel industry tends to mimic the stock market more than overall travel trends. However, while the economy is of great concern, it is not top of mind. This is truly a health crisis first and foremost. A community of affluent global travelers surveyed by YouGov at the end of April believes the pandemic will continue until Q3. This is significant concern about a second wave of infections. The all clear signal will come from medical professionals, not political bodies. We don't know what we don't know, and people are hungry for facts and data. But when that all clear does come, these travelers are ready to go. Of this group of affluent travelers surveyed again by YouGov, nearly 70% of them strongly agreed that they cannot wait to go on their next trip. And I'm one of them, okay? The enthusiasm and pent-up demand are great signs for travel's recovery. Many travelers have outstanding credits from postponed trips, and they're ready to use them. And we expect the enthusiasm to be at an all-time high because so many people have been cooped up in their homes and just need something to look forward to, some inspiration. The return to travel will likely happen in stages, starting with close-to-home travel. This is a feeling shared by many in the industry. This is due to factors like state travel policies and travel reluctance to be far from their families or healthcare providers. To speak to these travelers and kickstart early recovery efforts, focus marketing on regional travelers and emphasize health and hygiene. This is also an opportunity to invest in the future. Many companies are using this time to push forward with renovations or refine internal processes because they anticipate a boom in business and are using this time to prepare to be competitive. Today's traveler is primarily concerned about their health. This has been a trend in years prior with a focus on wellness. Well, today wellness means it is medical health that is on their mind. This is resulting in significant changes for airlines and cruise ships, but also fundamentally will change what travelers want and expect from their hotels. What will luxury look like when the ultimate high-touch business becomes a no-touch business? So it is of utmost importance that guests feel comfortable in your properties. That means something different than it used to be. It will be a delicate balancing act of high touch, no touch, and the new protocols that are being developed for health and safety. And keep in mind, there are new protocols that are being developed each and every day, and more that are being released and introduced. So one thing to consider in the short term is fewer points of contact and interaction. Digital room keys, enhanced cleaning for surfaces like remote controls, light switches, doorknobs, removing often touched items like notepads, pens, minibar items, replacing disposable whenever possible and replacing them after each day. The availability of masks and hand sanitizers are going to be as expected as those bathrobes and hair dryers and slippers in each and every luxury guest room. Reinventing room service and turn down to reduce access to guest rooms. Minimal contact policies will start from the moment the guest arrives, with virtual check-in and virtual check-out. It's important to alter the use of public spaces as well, like positioning furniture an appropriate distance away, limiting occupancy in elevators and avoiding buffets and sharing tables. Once fitness centers and spas reopen, or when it's determined on what is safe for that, it's important to enhance hygiene procedures and keep access limited to fewer guests at a time. It can be daunting on how much our world will need to change, but it's also a way for you to be innovative, an opportunity for you to rethink your processes and in the short term, but yet look forward this in the long term. So, and as the saying goes, don't waste a crisis. This has been a common driver to look at what we do and how we do it, focusing on the priorities amidst the madness and look to the future. The definition of luxury is changing, and at Virtuoso, we are using this time of crisis to evolve and shape the future of the travel advisor space and our core purpose. How do we continue to evolve and thrive in a new world, and how do we help define it, especially in the space that Virtuoso occupies? In times of need, the Virtuoso network comes together to support one another, keeping the network strong and engaged. And we have many examples of that, like when when the attacks in Paris during Bataclan, or when Turkey was going through its problems, or when there were hurricanes that ravaged through a great swath of the Caribbean 3 years ago. So another current example that we use to help make sure that our advisors are connected is our collaboration teams, which is comprised of agency owners and managers who have united to share ideas and help each other navigate this crisis. These groups are focused on each set's area of expertise, may it be their business model or focusing on a geographic region. Conversations range from adapting to remote workforce to how to market to their clients and their needs in time of crisis. The information shared is invaluable because of their insight into what's on their travelers' minds and what their travelers' needs are. When they're ready to start planning their next trip, this group will be the first to know where and how. During this time, it is also ever so important to stay connected with travelers and keep them inspired. Our new motto in Virtuoso has been, dream today, travel tomorrow. Now more than ever, people need something to look forward to. And Virtuoso has led marketing initiatives for our members to help them stay in touch with their clients and keeping those relationships active. For our partners, the recommended marketing tone is a simple one. Remind people what they love about travel. For many, travel is about fulfilling their dreams, celebrating milestones with their loved ones, and making incredible memories. It is the fabric of their lives. Our partners are using this time to remind them of that. Many travelers have bucket lists describing their trip of a lifetime, whether it's strolling along the River Seine, seeing the pyramids in Egypt, or simply lounging on a white sand beach in Koh Samui. But a bucket list wish is merely that, it's a wish. A wanderlist is a plan. So, Virtuoso is also launching Wanderlist. And for those of you who have been with Virtuoso, we sort of announced this at Virtuoso Week last year in August, but we're going full force now and launching this very, very soon, like in the next couple of weeks, where it will be available online through virtuoso.com. It is a proprietary platform that showcases our partners' incredible destinations and matches them with the expertise of a travel advisor. It has an interface like Netflix, which I know we'll all be quite familiar with, especially after this crisis. I, for one, have a lengthy watch list on Netflix and Hulu and Prime, but anyway, I'm sure we all do. Travelers have a lot of fun selecting items for their dream trip. Then travel advisors help make them come true. During times like these, people want to dream and plan their next escape, their next holiday with loved ones. Thailand is a consistent favorite of Wanderlist users and provides a good platform for people to plan their next milestone holiday. Given the anticipated return of close-to-home travel, the Virtuoso member agencies in your area will be a great resource for generating business. Virtuoso has members in China, Hong Kong, Taipei, Korea, among others. China is the world's largest outbound tourism market and is the country furthest along the path to recovery. We are seeing encouraging signs out of that region, as there were 110 million trips taken over the recent May Day holiday per Reuters. This was unexpected because this is almost 40% less than a regular year. However, it was a great sign, beating the original expectation of 90 million trips that were supposed to have been taken. Imagine that, 110 million trips over crazy times. So of course, the largest obstacle to travel remains the government restrictions. But when those obstacles are lifted, our member agencies located in your region will be your strongest and quickest supporters to stimulate business for you. So in closing, we are in this together and we will all get through this together. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are proud to have worked with TAT for 5 years. Our annual Virtuoso Chairman's event was hosted in Bangkok in November of last year. That seems like a lifetime ago, but it truly was an incredible event that couldn't have been pulled off in any other destination over such a special time for a very special place. A true showcase of what a destination and hospitality has to offer. And we cannot wait to return. And one thing I want to add on as well is that because of those advisors that you all hosted, who are savvy and have learned about what Thailand has to offer, they'll be the first ones as well to push business when it's appropriate, when people are comfortable traveling again, when they can get on that next flight and head your way. With that said, thank you all for your time today. So, open up for questions and answers, please.
Well, thank you very much, Albert, for that great insight. One thing that stood out for me through your presentation is the feeling of hope, because you said not if but when, and luxury travel will return, and so we're excited about that. Before the questions are loaded onto the screen, I just wondered whether you could share with us a little bit about, or a little insight or some tips on pricing, because a lot of people are saying post-COVID, there's going to be a lot of attractive pricing in the market, etc. But we know that there's also going to be a lot of disparity in pricing. And what advice can you give to the hotels in the luxury space as it relates to pricing?
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for bringing that up, Steve. Let me go first with the hope. In terms of what you mentioned, we have hope because we all know that, not just because we're being positive about this. We're being optimists about the opportunity here, because there's so much pent-up it's not pent-up demand right now, it's pent-up emotion that people want to go somewhere and people want their lives back in order, and that will happen sooner rather than later, as long as the government authorities say it's okay, when a vaccine is discovered or rolled out. But we don't have those answers, but rest assured that will happen, because we're seeing it here locally. We're seeing in the US, right, where there is hope, and some hotels are actually getting business over the weekend, from drive-to destinations, running 60% occupancy, which is not ideal, but 60% because they have to sort of space everyone out amongst rooms and how they turn the rooms, right? The 24-hour clean, you vacate a room 24 hours, you can't sell it, then you have to clean it. So it's a whole protocol. Now, the question about pricing. For the luxury space, the easiest thing and the most common reaction would be a knee-jerk to drop your prices and get business. This is not about that, really. In the space that we've seen, in the space that we've worked in for 30 years now, and having survived many crises like a 9/11 to the global recession, it truly is standing firm to your value, because for every dollar you bring discount, it'll take years to recover that, right? For every $10, it'll be another 10 years or something. Especially now in the luxury space, travelers will be looking for space. Travelers in our world, in the Virtuoso world, will be looking for villas, suites that they can have space and know that they don't share common areas. They're looking for premium type accommodations, which cost an arm and a leg. Also, you need to look at as well the protocols to how you're cleaning the rooms now and how you're staffing for that. That costs you money. So what it normally would have been to turn a room could have been a cost of, in the US, sometimes it can range from $140 to $190 just to turn one guest room. Now those costs could be doubled because of the cleaning protocols. So I'm not the asset manager, but obviously I'm sure our asset managers will agree with me as well in terms of stand firm when you can and focus on the right market, because we will not see RevPAR growth of what we used to. We believe that will come back in 2021, 2022. But as long as we can sort of keep driving and make sure that there's revenue coming in, the right revenue that appreciates your inventory, appreciates your type of hotel, and that way you can still pay your housekeepers and your waiters. That's the most important thing here as well.
Okay, Great. Great. Thank you for that. Very often in these times, everyone turns to, the statistics. What is the booking period? What is the average spend, etc. But I think also this is a very important time, like you said in your presentation, to make sure that you are going to be addressing the many questions that are going to be posed by your clients. And you've addressed a number of them in your presentation in terms of health and hygiene. These are some of the standard questions that hotels are going to get from travel advisors. And you have to make sure, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your frontline staff are fully equipped to answer these questions with the utmost of confidence, because that's going to be the difference between, making a reservation or, pondering or thinking or going somewhere else. People want to know the health and safety of their clients is assured when they are placed with you. And those are some of the things that I believe hoteliers have to take into consideration now and have to start planning for, because particularly from the US, it's going to be very, very important. I'm not sure whether or not the questions are ready to be loaded. I know that many people may have asked questions, but if we can carry on, Albert, I believe they're loading now. Do you foresee any sort of difference in length of stay of the luxury traveler post-COVID?
Well, post-COVID, we're still living through it, really.
I know.
I know. No, but this is a really good one. The length of stay of the American traveler is still changing as we speak, because right now, based on what we see and based on where they can go to, it's very short. It's a weekend getaway. It's a 3-night getaway. And obviously for them, it's ability to be able to drive to and drive back home, depending on where you are in the world. We're seeing it with our friends in France. They just opened up their work at home laws yesterday, and now I think it's 150 miles or something. So whatever it is, it's forever changing. The bright spot about this, though, if we look at the future, again, it's all about the future. When you look at 2021, there is confidence in terms of our travelers. A good barometer for us is always cruise bookings, because people plan, with a cruise line, there are so many penthouse suites, so many grand suites. Certain cruise lines are booked up for 2021, yes, the best suites. Yes. And we are actually up 6% over 2019, same period. So it shows you that people are planning with their lives and they're still going on that long cruise vacation, and they have confidence that it should return in 2021. We also have heard of bookings that were made for South Italy, somewhere in Sicily, this Q4, right before the hotel, a buyout of $1 million. So there is that pent-up demand. So it's pockets of this from the US segment. And of course, there depends on where you are in the world. It will be very different. But again, get to know your client, who they are, where they're coming from, and what priorities are.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And one of the encouraging signs from our private sector in Thailand, just in browsing various websites of certain resorts in Thailand, it's very interesting and encouraging to see that a lot of them are offering extended stays, because I believe for the ultra luxury traveler, length of stay could actually increase, because these people have time, they have disposable income, and they're looking to go somewhere relaxed and get away from it all. So I think that those resorts and hotels in Thailand that have the option of offering extended stays, that is something that they definitely should consider, because it is something that's going to be in high demand, I believe, by the ultra luxury traveler. And just to add on to your point, I read recently, actually yesterday, that Carnival Cruise Lines began taking reservations again, and their booking year over year for that period had gone up 600%. So it proves the point that people are desperate to make travel arrangements and travel plans, and it's an encouraging sign for travel within 2021. Do you foresee or do you anticipate any sort of additional travel trends as a result of the pandemic that we're facing now in the luxury space?
Well, in the luxury space, the travel trends that we see, what people are asking us for are, they want standalone villas. They're looking for space. They're looking for brands that they know that they can rely on in terms of the protocols, that they know that if they stick to this brand, that it's been clean to the standards that have been promised, that everything has passed through rigorous testing. We are working with a hotel. We have a few in California, and this particular hotel has a lot of villa options, like homes where you don't have to go to the front desk. They're technically sold out for the summer. I mean, it's surprising. I mean, in the meantime, they furloughed all the staff, the sales staff. However, they kept one to field this inquiry. So that's a positive sign. So for those of you on the call who have this type of product, who may have villas and all that, those will be a premium because people will be looking at that in terms of bringing their families, knowing that they can be contained when they don't have to share a pool with someone. And that is the short-term thinking, right? So people want that kind. People are looking for that kind of luxury right now. Private jets is a big thing as well, where to go to private islands, because there's been a lot of inquiry because people, with the uncertainty with the airlines, people have been inquiring more and more about private lift to these areas, as well as a surge in travel advisors. The one thing, and this is not a plug on Virtuoso, but I was speaking to the head of the CMO for a rather large hotel company, and just impartial. We're just talking about their own protocols in terms of what they're doing. And the one thing about what we've all learned is the whole transparency now model, where people who have booked through various modes of business or various channels couldn't get their refunds back, couldn't get a live person, couldn't get their money, couldn't get an answer when things were canceled, couldn't get out of the destination. So this CMO told me, she said, when we are out through this, the role of the advisor will be stronger than ever, and working with a travel advisor, because they're the ones who were able to get them out of, where they were stuck, get them a new ticket, work with the airline, work with the hotel, work with the villa company, whatever it may be. So using a trusted resource, that's the most important thing. I think that will change as well, and it just sort of elevates the purpose, the core purpose of what we do and why we do it as well.
Yes, and which is incredible. And one of the things that's so important at this time is building on your relationships with travel advisors, and making sure that you solidify your relationship. And this is an excellent time to do this. As I said before, we're so consumed in looking for the research and looking for the numbers in terms of what will people do, how long will they stay, etc. And sometimes we do all of that at the expense of these relationships that are right there at our fingertips. This is the great time to communicate with your travel advisors, those who have given you business before, those who were thinking of business. And I think what's going to become even more important moving forward is the whole concept of virtual tours, virtual educationals, etc. So I think that, those who are working travel and luxury have to become very creative and very dynamic in how they are showcasing their new product, because we're in a new normal, really. How they're showcasing some of the things that you've spoken about through your presentation in terms of distancing and hygiene and safety. And those are things that not only the travel advisor will want to know, but the consumer as well. And so I think it's very important for us to be absorbing everything, and for us to be making sure that we're touching on every component of the customer journey so that we are ready when the bookings begin to come. Yes. I know that a lot of people are concerned. You mentioned domestic will start first and then international will resume thereafter. Do you already see any sort of difference in advanced bookings as it relates to the luxury market? Do you expect that it'll be the same, or do you expect that there will be a little bit more time placed within the planning process?
A little bit more time, because people will want to know. People will always have their favorites. Like my favorite is being on a beach right now, right, in Thailand. But people want to know, if I go, will I be allowed in the country? Will I be allowed back in my country? So this will be a trying time in terms of how travel is, and obviously the dependence on airlines. When will they have lift and when they won't? So some people have written off. I know there are a few, for example, seasonal hotels that are in Europe that they're open now. This is the height of the season, right? For us in the US, Memorial Day is the start of summer in 2 weeks, and no one is making plans. People will be driving to wherever they can, and so it is uncertain. So some hotels have decided just to write off. I mean, they can, in this case, write off 2020 and just say, I'll see you in 2021. And that's not feasible for a lot of our properties, a lot of our partners, because they have staff associated, they have obligations and all that. So just being smart about it and working the local market. The MICE business will suffer initially, because obviously the unknowns about human interaction protocols now. I know that Berlin, Germany, lifted that they're not, like, if it's an exhibition, it's allowed. Certain types of conferences will be allowed. So all these things that keep evolving will just unfold with time. So now focus on your key segments, focus on where you see the opportunity. May it be your neighbors, may it be from China that starts opening up, may it be Korea, may it be the short haul destinations. Because I can tell you, as much as I'd love to say we're going to bring you a ton of business this year from mainland US, it's going to be a bit of a tough one. But again,
Indeed.
the moment it's a pent up emotion that people will want to go when they could.
Yeah. On the question of on-sites, DMCs, do you have any insights, or have you been privy to any sort of adjustments that on-sites will have to make or are making as it relates to the industry right now?
Of course, we have talked. I mean, there's various scenarios, because on-sites are small business owners, and they were equally hurt like the travel advisor, right? Because they have a staff, they're committed, they have overhead, and when you have negative revenues coming in and just more and more refunds, it is a scary position to be in. So what the on-sites have done, they've collaborated with their agencies. Once the worst was over, so to speak, in terms of just the flattening out, is working with the advisors to help secure the business together. Because again, I bring up the whole thing about transparency, right? Because ultimately it's the customer, it's the consumer that's saying, where is my $50,000, my $20,000 going? So they know when the travel advisor works with the on-site, they can tell their customer, if you book this amazing, incredible 20-day trip to Thailand, which I'm creating for you, this is where your 20,000 is going. So it's broken out. So the consumer, because they want to know, because that's what's happened. They're worried, like, I'll never see my money again, because will this partner, will this, whoever it may be, not be there next year? So it's the collaborative sales process is essential in this time. It's no longer my client, your client. Now it's together to secure that deal.
Yeah. And I also think that, moving forward, there is a great challenge that lies ahead, in the sense that, Thailand, I often tell people that 80% of Thailand is still undiscovered by those who are coming from the outside. And so I think the challenge here is for the DMCs to become very creative in the type of packages and programs that they're developing, to move people away from, the traditional destinations into emerging destinations, void of crowds, etc. But also, more importantly, to work with the private sector within these emerging destinations to make sure that the various health and hygiene standards are also maintained in these areas, because that's going to become important. And this is a time, to put forth in front of travel advisors, the many products and services that you have available. So, for example, private jets. Don't be afraid now to offer that service to your travel advisors, because very often, their clients may be quite interested in flying once they're in Asia, private, for obvious reasons. So those are some of the things that I think that we need to take into consideration moving forward. I'm not sure if we have any other questions that's been posed by the audience. I'm just asking that to Kun Gift. Are there any additional questions? The question of when do we think the luxury market will resume? Well, I think that Albert already, was very frank and honest in the sense that don't expect Americans to be pounding down your doors in 2020. I mean, we have to be realistic. We also have to take into consideration, the restrictions, the travel restrictions that have been put in place by various governments, not only in Thailand, but also here in the United States as well. So these kind of areas are still very gray, very unknown, but we know through research and through similar crises that we have dealt with that travel will resume. And so we're saying right now that most likely it will be in 2021. Would you agree,
Yeah,
Albert?
I agree, and maybe even sooner, right? Because I know that, again, as I mentioned earlier, there are people who are planning for quarter 4 in anticipation, just in case. But it's all very, very fluid because, again, it's just the uncertainty of the airlines and everything. However, the luxury market, focusing on that, the luxury space will flourish because these are the folks that will, even though their portfolios have been impacted, they're still the ones that, for them, this is even more a priority now, to be with their loved ones, be with their families, to get out and see the world and continue with their wanderlust plans. So that's obviously the space that we fit in, and we believe as well that this will flourish because of the pent-up emotion, right? The pent-up emotion that's there, and they will continue to travel farther and experience it. So in the meantime, while we wait for this to happen, for the market to come back, I think the big focus here is, again, as Steve mentioned, virtual tours. Sadly, that's the world we live in right now. I mean, how many of you like doing Zoom calls? After a while, the novelty is worn off, right? I mean, we are in the business of human connection. I mean, Virtuoso is known for this big hugathon, hugfest in Las Vegas every August. And sadly, we're not doing it this year because it's just the protocols. So it's important to keep connected with your sales force, your travel advisors, and they're yearning for that. Now is the time to reach out and talk to them and communicate, but do not sell. Don't tell them about your wonderful rooms and your wonderful bathrooms. Tell them a story. Tell them a story about why, what's happening, how you've helped your local economy, how you helped your local, what you're doing for the staff and doing for the locals, because they love to hear that, because those stories are what resonates with what people are looking for now to circumvent all this bad news. Tell them about, what plans you have when they return to Thailand. That's what they want to hear, and that's what they're learning. And no better time, right, Steve? No better time.
Absolutely. In fact, it dovetails quite nicely into From Thailand with Love campaign that TAT launched here in North America, basically to emphasize and to provide those of us here in the US who are facing this and all around the world with encouraging news. It's not a time for hard sales right now, but it's a time to communicate with your partners, and your partners will let you know when the time is right. In terms of how far, I think one of the questions on the screen is how far in advance will Americans plan their trip? Usually it's between 3 and 6 months. That can depend on whether or not somebody is, just ready to go right away, or whether or not, they're taking their time in terms of research, etc. So we can expect that, 3 to 6 months is usually the time. Probably because of COVID, it will be a little bit, more towards the 6-month mark. Because people are cautious, people are anxious, people want to know that they're making the right decision, and people will compare. And that was probably why I brought up the first question in terms of disparity in pricing and making sure that you are not providing one price to one travel advisor and another one to another, because people are going to compare, and you want to make sure that the client feels that they're coming to you and they're getting good value, because regardless of how much money that you have, this is what people want. They want value for what they're doing. We're about that time when we have to wrap up. So I would like to thank you so much for this informative session, and to thank your entire team at Virtuoso for all that you have been doing for TAT over the last 5 years. We look forward to riding this challenging time with you and your team, and we couldn't be more pleased that we have you at the helm to guide us and to consult with us. And thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your insight. Please continue to remain healthy and safe, and that's for your entire staff as well. And I'll convey our best regards to everyone in your office and your team.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, for dialing in so late in Thailand to be with Steve and me as we start our day in New York City. So, Kap
Great.
Kung Kap.
And for those of you who have joined us this evening, I encourage you to join the webinar that will be led by the leading research team, MMGY, that will happen on May 19th. It will be moderated by the team, the TAT team in Los Angeles, and it'll provide some very insightful information on the portrait of the American traveler post-COVID. So we encourage you to join that webinar because it'll give you that meat that I know that a lot of you are very desperate to receive. We've also uploaded for you some market intelligence that you're welcome to download. And there is a little icon that's circled in red on your screen, or there should be, and that is where you can access that information. If you are not able to do that, please contact the TAT team. They will be able to help you in downloading it. It's some good reading information, and it'll provide you some very good intelligence specific to the US market. And please don't forget to leave us your feedback and your suggestions by filling out the questionnaire. In case you forgot, look for the icon on your screen. It is next to the Q&A icon. Let me also remind you that the webinar was recorded. So if you'd like to watch again, TAT will post a link on each topic page after the presentation. Please make sure to check our schedule and register for other sessions. We have many more upcoming sessions, so please check tourismthailand.org/webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Khop kun mak krap.